The Rh negative bloodline and the alien connection. Did people with Rh negative blood evolve from an extraterrestrial species? Let's start with a simple question. I want you to name one single wild primate species on planet Earth that is Rh negative. Take your time. Think about our closest relatives, the chimpanzees, the gorillas, the orangutans. Think about the countless species of monkeys and lemurs swinging through the world's jungles. Do you have an answer? Of course you don't. You're stumped, because the answer is, there isn't one. Not a single one has ever been found. And yet, a full 15% of the human population is Rh negative. That isn't a rounding error. That's 1 in every 7 people you meet. It's hundreds of millions of people walking the earth right now, missing a tiny blood protein that is otherwise ubiquitous among our primate cousins. Think about that for a moment. We share somewhere between 98 and 99% of our DNA with chimpanzees. We are branches on the same evolutionary tree. So how is it possible that a fundamental trait, present across our entire family of species, simply vanishes in a massive portion of our own? How did a trait that doesn't seem to exist in our closest cousins become such a significant part of the human blueprint? This isn't just a quirky bit of trivia, it's a profound biological mystery that challenges the very story of human evolution. So what is this Rh factor we're talking about? The simplest way to think of it is as a molecular name tag, or an antigen, that lives on the surface of your red blood cells. Imagine your blood cells are little delivery trucks carrying oxygen throughout your body. Most of the trucks that roll off the assembly line come with a specific logo painted on the side, the RHD protein. If your blood cells have that logo, you're Rh positive. If your blood cells are missing it, you're Rh negative. It's named the Rh factor because it was first identified during research involving rhesus macaque monkeys, but don't let the name fool you. We didn't get it from them. It was just a key part of the discovery process. Now, having that protein or not having it doesn't seem to change how your blood carries oxygen. Both models of the truck get the job done just fine, but the weird part is the manufacturing stats. Nearly every mammal on the planet, from mice to monkeys, wears that name tag. Evolution is all about efficiency and function. If a trait is universally preserved across countless species, it's usually because it serves a critical purpose. So, finding an entire group of humans, 15% of us, without that name tag, is like discovering that a major car company ships 1 out of every 7 vehicles without a steering wheel. It's technically possible, but you'd assume the quality control department, in this case evolution, would have noticed and corrected such a massive and consistent typo a long time ago. When scientists who study this stuff can't sleep at night, it's usually because their minds are churning over 3 deeply perplexing facts about the Rh negative phenomenon. First, there's the evolutionary hole we just mentioned. It's a gaping void in the fossil record of our blood. Scientists have tested our closest relatives, chimpanzees, gorillas, and other primates. While they have their own complex blood group systems, some of which are related to our own, the specific and common human form of Rh negativity, caused by a complete deletion of the RHD gene, is nowhere to be found. Evolution works by modification. Traits are passed down and tweaked over generations. For a trait to just appear out of thin air with no clear predecessor in our ancestral line is profoundly strange. It is like finding a sophisticated piece of software on your computer that has no developer history and no previous versions. It just is. Second, there's the rejection drama. This is perhaps the most baffling part of the whole mystery. If an Rh negative mother is pregnant with an Rh positive baby, which can happen if the father is Rh positive, her body can identify the baby's blood cells as foreign invaders. It's not a gentle flagging. Her immune system can mount a full-scale attack, producing antibodies to destroy the baby's red blood cells. This is a condition called hemolytic disease of the newborn. In the past, before medical interventions, it could lead to severe anemia, brain damage, or even the death of the child. Subsequent pregnancies often faced even higher risks. From a purely evolutionary standpoint, this makes no sense whatsoever. Any genetic trait that declares war on your own offspring, the very vehicle for passing on your genes, should be ruthlessly eliminated by natural selection. It's a feature that actively works against the survival of the species. Yet here it is, thriving in 15% of the population. Third and finally, there's the issue of geography on steroids. The Rh-negative gene isn't spread evenly across the globe, not even close. If you go to East Asia or Africa, the percentage of Rh-negative people is vanishingly small, often around 1%. But as you move into Europe, the numbers climb. And then, you get to one very specific, isolated corner of the world. The Basque region, nestled in the Pyrenees Mountains between Spain and France. There, the frequency of Rh-negative blood skyrockets. Nearly 35% of the local population is Rh-negative, the highest concentration on the planet. Walk a few hundred miles in any direction from that hotspot, and the numbers nosedive back toward the European average. How does a gene fall so in love with one specific hillside and effectively snub the rest of the planet? It's not a gentle, sloping gradient. It's a statistical cliff face. So, what is the official textbook explanation for this anomaly? The most common theory goes something like this. A long time ago, maybe around 4,000 years ago by some estimates, a single mutation occurred in an individual, effectively switching off their RHD gene. That person had children, and those children had children, passing the trait down. This new, rare gene then got a major boost from two phenomena, the founder effect and genetic drift. The founder effect is easy to understand. Imagine a ship of 20 colonists, and by pure chance, 10 of them have green eyes. The new society they establish will have a far higher rate of green eyes than the country they left. The theory suggests that the ancestors of the Basque people were a small, isolated group, and for whatever reason, the Rh-negative mutation was common among the founders. Then, genetic drift took over. In a small, isolated population, like one cut off by mountains, random chance can cause certain genes to become much more common over generations, even without providing a survival advantage. So, the story goes. A random mutation, amplified by the founder effect and genetic drift in an isolated population, created the Basque hotspot. It's a neat and tidy explanation, but for many it feels thin. It's like finding your house keys are missing and concluding, we lost the keys because they're not here. It describes the outcome, but doesn't satisfyingly answer the why. The major hole remains the pregnancy risk. Genetic drift can easily boost harmless quirks, but the Rh-negative trait isn't harmless. As we discussed, it introduces a significant risk to reproduction. Under that kind of negative evolutionary pressure, you would expect the gene to fade away into obscurity, not throw a massive party in 35% of an entire population. The textbook answer just doesn't fully account for how such a risky gene became so incredibly successful. Could the answer be off-world? When the mainstream explanation leaves the biggest questions unanswered, it creates a space for more unconventional ideas. This is where the heretics come in. A handful of researchers and a growing number of curious laypeople have started to ask a provocative question. What if the protein wasn't lost by accident? What if it was erased on purpose? This is the ancient astronaut hypothesis. Let's follow the logic. Picture this. Many thousands of years ago, advanced visitors arrive on Earth. They want to conduct a long-term experiment on the local hominin population, but they need a reliable way to keep track of their subjects. What's the most efficient way to tag an organism? You don't use a physical tag, you use a genetic one. You make a small, precise alteration to their DNA. The most common cause of the Rh-negative condition in Europeans is not a simple mutation, but a complete deletion of the RHD gene. It's a clean snip. So, the theory goes, what if these visitors snipped that one gene? It would leave no major biochemical chaos, the blood still works, but it creates a permanent heritable marker, a barcode. When those modified humans eventually mixed with the wider, unmodified population, the marker would remain relatively rare, it would stay clustered in the original location, and it would always look unmistakably odd to future geneticists. Is it sci-fi? Absolutely. It sounds like the plot of a movie. But here's the kicker. This one single, outlandish idea instantly and elegantly solves all three of the great mysteries that keep geneticists awake. The monkey gap? Solved. The gene didn't evolve from primates. It was introduced from an outside context. The pregnancy clash? Solved. It wasn't a bug. It was a feature designed to keep the modified lineage from being diluted. The Basque hotspot? Solved. That's simply ground zero, the place where the experiment began. The circumstantial evidence that won't go away. Beyond the major puzzles, believers in the off-world hypothesis point to a collection of other strange correlations that seem to cluster around Rh-negative individuals. Now, it is crucial to state that none of these are blockbuster, peer-reviewed, universally accepted findings. They come from small surveys, anecdotal reports, and pattern recognition. But the patterns pop up just a little too often to be dismissed out of hand. There are persistent hints that, on average, people with Rh-negative blood may have slightly higher IQs. Others report lower than average body temperatures and blood pressure. There's the striking prevalence of green or hazel eyes and reddish hair within the group, traits that are also relatively rare. And many report a higher sensitivity to sunlight and heat, and a tendency to sunburn much faster. Are these real biological side effects of the gene deletion, or just a series of unrelated coincidences? It's impossible to say for sure. But then you add another layer, the Basque language, known as euskera. Euskera is a complete enigma. It is what linguists call a language isolate. English is a Germanic language related to German and Dutch. Spanish and French are Romance languages, descended from Latin. Nearly every language in Europe belongs to a larger family. But not euskera. It has 0 living relatives. It is a linguistic island, surrounded by a sea of Indo-European tongues, and its origins are a total mystery. The Fringe camp sees these two facts as the smoking. In the exact same geographic location, you have the world's most significant genetic anomaly, Rh-negative blood, and the world's most significant linguistic anomaly, the Basque language. For proponents of the alien theory, this is too much to be a coincidence. They see both the blood and the tongue as relics, the last remaining genetic and linguistic fossils of a non-terrestrial founder group that has otherwise vanished into the mists of time. Let's dive deeper into the wildest and most compelling part of the theory, the idea that the maternal immune attack isn't a glitch, but a bouncer at a very exclusive club. If you were trying to preserve a specific, modified genome over thousands of years, what would be your biggest problem? Dilution. Your experimental group would inevitably mix with the general population, and over time, your unique genetic marker would be blended away into nothingness. So, how do you prevent that? You build in a biological border control system. In this view, the mother's immune response isn't a mistake. It is a sophisticated, pre-programmed defense mechanism. When a body carrying the off-world lineage, Rh-negative, tries to create a hybrid offspring with a body carrying the terrestrial lineage, Rh-positive, the system flags the fetus as a foreign entity and attempts to reject it. The purpose isn't to harm the baby out of malice, it's to keep the two genomes from successfully mixing. It's a brutal, but brutally effective way of keeping a bloodline pure. This theory has a fascinating modern-day epilogue. Since the 1960s, we've had a medical miracle called the Rh immune globulin injection, often known by the brand name Rogam. When given to an Rh-negative mother during and after pregnancy, it essentially hides the baby's Rh-positive blood cells from her immune system, preventing her from producing the dangerous antibodies. It has saved the lives of countless babies. But in doing so, we may have accidentally preserved an alien barcode that nature, or its designers, wanted to keep separate. Our medical safety net has effectively canceled the biological border control, allowing the Rh-negative trait to coast along at its modern 15% frequency, mixing freely in a way it never could before. What mainstream science says. Of course, mainstream geneticists have strong counterarguments to this entire line of speculation. They are quick to point out that we don't need to invoke aliens to explain gene deletions. Under controlled laboratory settings, scientists have observed similar genes being lost in animals like lab mice and even macaques. The genetic machinery for this kind of event exists naturally. Furthermore, many scientists stress that the widespread deletion of the RHD gene in humans appears to be only a few thousand years old, not tens of thousands. If that timeline is correct, it makes a connection to truly ancient astronauts far less likely. It would place the origin of the trait well within the era of modern human history. But the critics of the mainstream view have their own rebuttals. They shoot back, yes, you can make a gene disappear in a lab, but wild rodents and primates never on their own push that deletion to 35% of a single thriving population while also creating a reproductive hazard. The scale and success of the trait in humans is what makes it unique, and so we have a stalemate. Both camps agree on the basic facts, the monkey gap, the pregnancy risk, the Basque hotspot, but they interpret them through wildly different lenses. And both camps agree on one more thing. We desperately need more data. The vast majority of genetic research has focused on European populations. To truly understand the origin and spread of the Rh-negative factor, we need far more full genome data from diverse regions all across the globe. How to test the alien hypothesis yourself. The fascinating part is that you don't need a spaceship or a government grant to start investigating this yourself. All you need is a consumer DNA kit and a little curiosity. First, get your DNA tested by one of the popular services. Once you have the results, download your raw data file. The basic report you get won't tell you what you need to know, but the raw data is the key. You can then upload this data to a third-party website that specializes in more detailed genetic analysis, many of which can specifically flag a full RHD gene deletion. This will confirm if you are Rh negative because of the clean SNP. Second, for the truly dedicated, you can look at the genes neighboring the RHD locus. The alien hypothesis would predict tidy cut and paste margins, as if a tool was used. A random, natural mutation might look genetically messier. This is like performing a forensic analysis on your own genome, looking for tool marks. Third, look at your maternal haplogroup, which traces your deep maternal ancestry back thousands of years. You can then compare your haplogroup to the patterns commonly found in the Basque population to see if your distant ancestors may have originated in that mysterious region. Finally, and perhaps most compellingly, become a family historian. Ask your mother, your grandmother, your great-aunts. Ask if anyone in the family line, before the arrival of rig shots in the late 1960s, had difficult pregnancies, miscarriages, or babies born with what was often called blue baby syndrome or severe jaundice. A family lineage of Rh-negative women that consistently had healthy babies without medical help might be a fascinating clue. It could hint at a long-standing incompatibility with the rest of humanity that the family managed to avoid through sheer luck or careful partnering. Mid-roll CTA. If you're still here, you are clearly not someone who settles for the simple answer. You're one of us, the endlessly curious, the ones who fall down these fascinating rabbit holes at 2 in the morning. So do me a favor and hit that like button. It tells the algorithm to find another bleary-eyed Rh-negative person and share this journey with them. And more importantly, comment below with your blood type. I'm genuinely curious to see how many negatives are watching. And if you are negative, let us know if the low body temp, green eye combo, or any of the other traits we mentioned rings a bell for you. Why the truth matters. This might seem like a fun, speculative thought experiment, but the truth behind the Rh-negative mystery has profound real-world consequences. Every day, blood banks quietly pay premiums for Rh-negative blood and plasma, especially O-negative. Why? Because it's the universal donor. In a catastrophic emergency, when there's no time to test a patient's blood type, O-negative is the go-to option. It's the blood they give to newborns in crisis. The supply of this critical resource depends entirely on this 15% of the population. Beyond transfusions, if this trait really does carry hidden health quirks, whether good or bad, the millions of people who have it deserve to know the specifics. Are they more or less susceptible to certain diseases? Could it affect how they respond to medications? These aren't fringe questions, they are fundamental public health issues. And finally, if, against all odds, the alien angle ever scored a single piece of undeniable genomic proof, it would be the single greatest discovery in human history. Every anthropology shelf in every museum would be torched and rewritten. Our entire origin story, our understanding of our place in the cosmos, would be changed forever. Keeping this topic buried in the Fringe folder doesn't protect science. It stalls the search for answers that affect pregnancies, transfusions, and the very definition of who we are. The lingering mystery. So what are we left with? Mutation or marker? An Earth-grown glitch or a cosmic calling card? At this moment, the only certainty is the question mark itself. This isn't a myth or a legend. It is a physical, measurable fact that 15% of humanity, hundreds of millions of people, walk around with blood that science cannot fully trace back through our evolutionary tree. They have bodies that, under certain natural circumstances, treat the rest of our species like a foreign allergen. Until we commit to sequencing far broader, more diverse cohorts of people from around the world, and until someone can definitively explain why a red blood cell with a deleted protein survives and thrives so successfully, this mystery isn't going anywhere. It will continue to linger at the edge of scientific consensus, a beautiful and unsettling puzzle encoded in our very veins. The next time you're in a conversation about genetics and a friend shrugs off the Rh-negative factor with, "Oh, it's just a random mutation," ask them to explain the randomness. Ask them why that random event drew such a detailed and specific map centered on one mountain range. Ask them why evolution would favor a random trait that risks the lives of our own children. If you are Rh-negative, consider joining a genotype registry or participating in genetic studies. More data is the only thing that will lead to faster and more definitive answers. Share this video with the most science-curious, open-minded person in your life. It's time to drag this puzzle out of the Fringe conspiracy forums and into the labs and mainstream conversations where it belongs. Because whether it's a quirk of evolution or something far stranger, 15% of us might be carrying a profound secret, not just in our veins, but in our past.